Hello, my name is Daria Lang, and I will be introducing the company that we interviewed today, which is called Delirio in Twain. We had the opportunity of speaking to the founders, the two of the co-founders from the company, courtesy of Nico, who interviewed them in Spanish. And we asked them about how they came to start their business, anything interesting, and tips that they would give us. After finally speaking to them after their busy schedule, we were able to schedule a slot to interview them on the way to the airport, which is why we have a video of them in the car asking them questions. Although one of our members almost died a few times, we safely got the interview questions, and we're here to tell you how it's done. I'm going to share the screen to show you and explain to you what we spoke about for the introduction, kind of the background of the company to get a good idea of what this company, Delirio and Twain, is as a whole. So I'm going to share the screen right now. And what we see here is the background of Delirio and Twain. So first, they introduce themselves. They're both named Eva Santos and Mauricio. For some reason, the name isn't there. And Eva Santos is the Chief Creative Officer and founder, and Mauricio Rocha is the Chief also Creative Officer and co-founder. And Delirio and Twain is a creative agency that works with the United States and the UK on different projects regarding marketing and expanding their company as a whole. They describe that they find the missing points between what they need to do in order to take their company to the next step and expand it. And they basically consult and also advertise for the company in order for it to grow. Now, one of our most crucial questions was, did you have a lot of experience when creating a business? And their question was very interesting because you hear about a lot of young entrepreneurs, but they were not that young. They actually had a lot of experience backing it up. So Eva mentioned how she had a lot of multinational experience, and she worked in various creative positions and a number of companies. They worked in IDB, they worked in Y&R, and numerous other companies. And even Mauricio mentioned how he spent 21 years working in these companies as well. So they had a lot of background research and experience when assessing what they need to do. And I find this very interesting because a lot of people go into entrepreneurship with the blind eye, but there are also people who definitely, I guess, assess and find missing points to do on their own, which is, I guess, what they did. But they were able to really get into the field and understand what it is, because Mauricio actually has so many awards and different kind of prizes for what he did, and it's really impressive. They were very humble in the video and explaining about what they did in their past achievements, but they've been recognized by many countries and many companies, and they worked with huge brands all over the world, ones that you use every single day. So they were just explaining how they did have a lot of experience, but they were ready to do something on their own. And that kind of led us to the next question, which is, do you think entrepreneurs are born, or is it a learned skill? And I see that we spelled born incorrectly, which we're going to fix in a second. But Eva was mentioning how she really thinks it depends on the person, because there can be people who are born entrepreneur and have that entrepreneurial spirit, but there are also people who are just easily able to learn and pick up from other people and other experiences, and they are able to apply those to their own businesses. So it really depends on the person and the background and the kind of person they are, because some people have no problem working for another company their whole life, but I think they mentioned that they were kind of fed up with it. And Mauricio was also mentioning how he was ready to take the next step. Like, they have already experienced everything they needed to do, but they just felt like something beyond it had to be done. So now they're starting, and Eva mentioned how she's 45 years old, which I think she was saying like as an old age, but it definitely isn't, and how even like at such an age they were able to start and pivot and start this company, and now it's taking off and becoming so successful. I think this is a really good question in my opinion, because everyone talks about like, oh, if you're an entrepreneur and if you're born with it, and if it's something that you can learn, because some people don't have that entrepreneurial drive, yet they want to be an entrepreneur. And now it's also a stigmatized word. Everyone's an entrepreneur for everything, and everyone's putting it in their biographies even when they haven't really started anything. It's almost like a glamorized word. The thing is, no one really understands the sweat and tears that is put into something such as entrepreneurship, which is why I think it's a great thing to ask from people, because I have heard from both sides that some people are born entrepreneurs and you have that spirit that no one can really take away from you, and some people just said like, no, they just know how to solve a problem, and that's kind of the whole essence of entrepreneurship. So it really depends on the person, your focus, and your discipline at the end of the day. I'm going to stop sharing right now. But regardless, I hope you learned something from this. I'm going to pass this on to the next section. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay, so now we are going to move away to the opportunity identification block of the interview, where we started asking our entrepreneurs if they had experienced a shift from the initial ideas that they had when creating the business, or they had stuck to them. Well, they both agreed that they had done a pretty good job at maintaining those core values. It is true that they have a very innovative way of viewing the market, keeping all the good and getting rid of all of the bad. And even though they have had amazing numbers of clientele right from the start, they did notice that some people were a bit more cautious in the sense that they wanted to make sure they worked because they had a new way of viewing the market. And it had never been seen before, so they really wanted to make sure that they weren't making a mistake working with them. I think this is very comprehensible. Obviously, whenever there's a new business that introduces a new way of doing something that we have never seen before, we're always kind of, we're alerted to see if that is going to work. Maybe I should invest my money in this. Oof, I don't know, I'm not sure. So I totally got that when they said it. Afterwards, we asked them about the risk situation. If there was a lot of risk involved in creating their company. And our entrepreneurs, being 40-ish, they both agreed in the fact that the biggest risk on the table for them, they had all of the financials, they had the experience. The biggest risk for them on the table was their reputation. These people, as I said, had been in the professional industry for a long time. And the possibility that Delidio and Twain may have gone bad would have totally ruined their reputation as professionals in their industry. Finally, we asked them about why they chose to create Delidio and Twain. And Eva said that, as cliche as it may sound, she did it to be happier. She was working at a job where she was forced to do, not forced, but she was told to do things, how to do them, when to do them, why to do them. And she felt like she was acting kind of like a robot for the past few years in her job. She would go back home with her pockets full, but she wasn't really fulfilled with her job, and she loved her job. So she really agreed with Mauricio on this, and they were both like, we want to do the things how we want to. We want to be our own bosses. We want to call the shots, essentially. So that's why they kind of embarked in this journey to be more free and to be more happy.
So continuing with their entrepreneurial process, there are 4 interesting aspects that are at play: the process of developing their idea, the team creation, the financial aspect that is involved, and finally how they experience growth. Starting off with their process to start developing their idea, Mauricio and Eva had a history, so they've known each other for a long time and have been friends as well. Because of that, they already knew each other's way of thinking and their views on the industry, which was a major advantage to them as they already aligned with each other. To becoming entrepreneurs together was a result of being mature and using their wisdom into the situation. For example, they chose to team up and cooperate rather than start separate businesses, as they realized they can become a better team together than do something separately. They know each other's strengths and know how they can benefit from it. So continuing to the team formation, this also very much aligns with what I previously stated. They both have very different strengths and they acknowledge that they could use these better together in order to become more successful rather than doing something separately. This just shows how important it is to know your partner and yourself in order to complement each other where needed. What interested me is the risk of starting such a company with a friend, whereas Mauricio emphasized it is a fundamental part of understanding each other and what you want to achieve. There is no such will as a feeling the need to be better, but more like the desire to achieve something good together. Eva adds to that a good team is fundamentally about personal relationships and loyalty, a point I also very much agree with. Without these 2 factors, I also believe it will be hard to sustain your business as cooperating entrepreneurs in the long run. As for the finance aspect, private investors were the main drivers that made their startup possible in the first place. Additionally, as they offer a remunerated service, their first revenues were very quick to be received. Apart from that, the owner of Marco Aldani, Alejandro Fernandez, provided great financial support in the early stages of their company. As Mauricio said, he served as a great pillar in the startup of their company. The financial part especially can cause some difficulties when becoming an entrepreneur. However, Mauricio expresses that there is one important thing he believes in. The minute you are able to showcase a solid and well thought idea of which you're truly passionate about, and makes getting an investor become a lot easier. In other words, showing you believe in your own idea and showing the effort and showing that you will put an effort into the idea will provide a big advantage in getting investors. Lastly, I'm going to talk about dealing with growth. In the case of this company, Mauricio and Eva have experienced rapid and immediate growth due to their previous contacts as well. A lot of their ex-colleagues who liked their way of thinking and working showed immediate interest and pretty much called them right away. This also proves their earlier statement about the importance of personal relationships. Their main issue to deal with was not whether they would grow, it was with how fast they grew and not having the means as a young startup to keep up with the demand they were receiving. They express how to this day they still work to deal with this growth on processes such as registering every operation or controlling payments.
So moving on to measuring success. So first off, what they did mention very often in the interview is that you need a very optimistic behavior. So even when they were going through hard times, or they were trying to figure out a problem that was hard to resolve, or any of that matter, they were always trying to keep a positive atmosphere in their workforce and trying to stay as optimistic as possible to try and resolve that issue. Not just trying to believe it, but trying to express it for everyone around your team to also feel that atmosphere and feel that energy. Something else that they did emphasize, probably the most emphasis, was the hard work. So almost throughout the whole time, they were saying hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work. That's what you got to do to succeed, to reap the rewards. They were saying something that intrigued me. They were saying they've never worked harder and as much in their life, but they've never also been happier in their life. So the harder you work, the more rewards you get. And so this is the main lesson I got from that interview. Also learn what truly matters. They were trying to say that you need to focus on small tasks one by one and don't try to resolve and solve that whole puzzle all at once by itself. You've got to take your time and try to solve tasks one by one in order to slowly build that puzzle, slowly but surely and well. Something else that they did come across while measuring their success was that you do learn a lot throughout your journey. You don't expect to succeed straight away. You've got to take your time. You've got to analyze the situation and see how it happens, and learn in the process while you do that. So as you learn, obviously, you're going to learn lessons. You're going to learn from failures and from victories, and you've got to adapt to that as time goes on. And the last point I wanted to mention was that you have got to set your expectations high. So these people, they said ever since they started, they had high expectations. So they've been working with the likes of FC Barcelona, Nivea, and all those brands, but they didn't get them straight away. But they did have that vision when they started. They said, we want to work with the biggest companies and we're going to get there. It did take a little while, but they did have their expectations high enough to reach that goal. And that is also one of the key points as an entrepreneur, is to set your expectations high.
So I'm going to give a bit of a personal assessment. I'm going to talk a bit about what makes them successful, their development process, if it was successful or not, some alternative options they could have pursued, as well as some areas that they could improve on. So first of all, we believe that the development process was very successful. It was a very well thought through concept, that they researched well enough. They had excellent prior knowledge, as they both respectively have worked in the field for many years. And have worked with entrepreneurs together. So they kind of knew what they were getting themselves into. They had a certain degree of wisdom on that matter. They also analyzed and realized the risk that they were taking in terms of their reputation, their money, and that the fact that they were giving up their current jobs. So they knew that they were doing, and they weren't being reckless in their choice. Also, what made them excellent co-founders was that they were both very motivated and optimistic about their idea. They really wanted to pursue it, as they were both seeking professional fulfillment in their lives, as they did not feel fulfilled by their current jobs. And also, what was very important is that they were willing to take risk, which I believe is something that entrepreneurs should have. They should be willing to take the risk and venture out on their own and assume the risk that they're taking. Also very important, what made them successful is that they had investors who were believing in them and who still believe in them, and they were willing to invest into the company. And this was also thanks to the reputations that the co-founders had built up by themselves, having gained multiple awards and being under the top ranked in the industry. So that really did help them in becoming successful. And also very important was that they are performing outstanding teamwork. They are both very good team workers, and they, I believe, this is something that a lot of other startups, co-founders underestimate, is how important teamwork actually is, and the willingness to work together and always put the business first. Because I feel like the moment co-founders go after success in independent matters and don't put the company first is when the company starts to suffer. And this was not the case with Larry and Twain. They both brought individual skill sets to the table, and they harmonize in a really good way, which only aids the company. And talking a bit about some other options they could have pursued potentially is the argument between loan versus equity in terms of financing. So they do finance through equity. However, an alternative way would have been to take a business loan, because loans tend to be a bit more flexible, and also loans don't dilute the owner's equity, and also the lenders don't have any claim on the profits of the business. However, they did probably weigh their options very well and looked into both of the options, but chose that in the end, the equity was a better way, because they did have investors who were willing to invest in them. And talking a bit about what we at this point, what we would suggest that they do was, because they did say in the interview that they were kind of very overwhelmed by the success in the short amount of time they were getting, as well as the growth that they were experiencing. So what we would suggest now is that they undergo some team expansion so that they can really divide up labor into respective fields, and so that they scale it to a better way to profit the business even more, so that they can venture out and take on even more work and really, really succeed in the industry.